So Abraham met this man, and the first thing Abraham did was to give this man a tenth of everything they got from war. Now, Abraham did not pay tithes to Melchizedek. No, that wasn't tithes. When you look at the scriptures, and you see people go to war, for example, David. Whenever David goes to war and they had spoils of war, they would divide it equally among all the soldiers of David. But they will remove 10% for Abiathar the priest. He wasn't a soldier. Let me say that again. Abiathar was a priest that was following David everywhere. He was the one that would consult for David. He was the one that would help David to check whether the Urim and Purim, what God is saying, what God is not saying. When they give all the fighting men their share, Abiathar collects a percentage because he has a family, because that was what was due him according to how they share their sharing formula. The same principle applies here. It wasn't a continuous thing because Abraham, of course, met Melchizedek only once. So he didn't give Melchizedek tithes twice or 3 times. It was as a consequence of war. Don't forget, the Bible did not say that you give tithes, you fight war every day, you give 10% of war. No. It wasn't war that we are supposed to tithe. We are supposed to work and give 10% of our earning to God. But in this case, Abraham went for a war, and Abraham now gave Melchizedek 10% of what he got from war. Do you understand? He didn't give Melchizedek 10% of his property. He didn't give Melchizedek 10% of his profits. He gave Melchizedek 10% of what they got out of that war. So that's not tithe. And all the pastors that used to preach about it that it is tithe is because they do not understand scripture. That cannot be tithe. It's like I earn 1,000 naira salary every month. My tithe is supposed to be 100 naira. Then the man of God comes to my house after I inherited the property from my father. And then I gave the man of God 10% of that property. But I didn't give him 10% of my monthly earning. So that means I didn't pay tithe because that property I can only inherit it once. And once I've given him that 10%, he will not come back tomorrow to collect another one. So that's not tithe. So I just wanted that to be clear. I have nothing against tithe. Tithe blesses us. That is, in fact, more than tithe. I personally pay more than tithe. I give. I'm sorry I called it pay. I give more than that. I bless my father's house. I bless all his children. I'm a blessing to my generation, and many generations that will come after me shall call me blessed. If Jesus tarries, they shall look unto me. Their face shall be enlightened, and they shall say, indeed, we met one who is like Christ, when they talk about me. This is my testimony, and this is where I'm going. This is my life. This is my life. This is my sunesis. And so I live my life to be the fulfillment of the days of Christ. I have nothing against tithe. I'm just trying to explain scripture here that what Abraham gave Melchizedek was not tithe, was a tenth of the spoils of war. And that is different from your earnings that you have to give 10% out of. So we understand in context what Abraham did and why he did it. That's done. Now, the third thing I want to mention here was the relationship then between the supernatural and the natural. You will notice that every time a supernatural event would happen to aid a natural cause, you will notice that immediately there will be a sort of requirement for the person that enjoyed the supernatural advantage to make things at par. Let me explain it. When Moses was going to leave Egypt with the children of Israel, pay attention, please. Pharaoh's firstborn died, and all the firstborn of Egypt died. Do you know that immediately after that, God said they should tax all the firstborn of Israel and bring the money to his house? Pay attention. Again, let me repeat it. A supernatural thing happened. Angel of destruction came into Egypt, killed all the firstborn of every family in Egypt. Oh, wow, glory! God has given Israel victory. Then, as soon as they left Egypt, God told Moses, said, oh, yeah, all these firstborns, all the firstborn, I want money from all the firstborn of Israel. He called, he said the money is to ransom their life. So you have to understand, because demons participated in the killing of the children of Egypt, and God spared the children of Israel. To balance it, God said the children of Israel should pay. I'll give you another example so you can get a balance. When they got to Jericho, Joshua and Co got to Jericho, and the walls were so high, and they couldn't do anything about the wall. A man appeared to him, and the man said, "Oh, I'm the leader of the army of God." The man told him that they should go around Jericho 7 times, gave him instruction. They followed the instruction. Jericho fell. They won the battle without raising a sword. And God told them, don't take anything. No. Everything that comes from Jericho comes to me. Why? Because God was the one that fought the war. So none of them should lay claim to anything. The one person that stole from it, Achan, was killed for it. I'm just setting a precedent so you understand why Abraham, after dividing himself, had an obligation to quickly give unto God the 10% of the loot, because he divided himself and the supernatural supported it in order for him to have victory in that battle. So that most of us here, when we get a victory by supernatural hand, which is a practical lesson you will take home today, when you pray and you see the hand of God, if you keep quiet and you don't share the testimony, and you don't value it, I'm not asking anybody to, it's easy to misunderstand people. Anyway, this is me, JSW speaking, so you should understand what I'm trying to say. When you see a miracle that God has done for you, don't keep quiet. Quickly, the same way Abraham behaved, the same way Joshua behaved, the same way Moses behaved, that I just gave examples of. When you see that the hand of God is what did this, don't now pretend as if no, you are wise. Acknowledge that God did it. If you have to give 10%, 5%, 15%, 20%, 50%, 100%, give it to God, not to a man of God. I beg you, not to a man of God. This is very important. Give it to the work of God. Acknowledge that without God, I couldn't have achieved this. God did this, and therefore I'm giving God his due of what he has done. This is the example that Abraham set with Melchizedek, and the example was also set with Moses in dealing with the children of Israel when the firstborn of Egypt died. Same example was set in Jericho, and all through the scriptures you will see these examples where the supernatural will come out to help the children of Israel, or a prophet or a minister of God, and the man will immediately acknowledge God and bless him for it. We've